So yeah, welcome to another Frequency Freaks Portraits of Our Community. Today I'm talking with Sunil Solanki. How you doing, Sunil?
Great. How are you doing, Scott?
I'm doing well,
Nice to see
thanks.
you.
Doing well. COVID treating you okay?
Pretty good, pretty good. Not too bad. Had a bit of a lockdown for a while, but back to work and just trying to survive.
Oh, fantastic, good stuff. Yeah, it's all about looking forward, right? It's a challenging time, so I'm glad to hear you're doing okay. So listen, thanks very much for agreeing to meet up with me today. These discussions are really just to get to know the different members of our community, to introduce ourselves maybe to people who haven't met you before. Also, just an opportunity perhaps for some people who have met you to get to know you a little bit better. So yeah. So listen, how did you come to sort of electronic music and, in general and say modular specifically?
That's a bit of a long and winding path, I suppose. I got into electronic music probably when I was in grade 9 or grade 10.
Hmm.
Um, I was really, really big into Depeche Mode, and then from there got into Gary Newman and Kraftwerk, especially, and those three were probably the really big foundations. That would have been the early late 80s.
Hmm.
So yeah, late 80s and early 90s, and started then. After a trip to Thailand, I bought a pirated version of Propellerhead's Reason and Rebirth,
Hmm.
the software, and it was basically Rebirth was the very first software instrument I ever used, and it was basically two 303s, an 808, and a 909 in software form,
Hmm.
and it just blew me away. And I was like, wow, this is the sound of so many of the records I love and so much of the music I love. And after that, I started saving money for about 2 years. And I remember buying my very first synthesizer. It was a Yamaha SY22 Vector Synthesis
Yep.
from Cosmo Music,
Yep.
and
Cosmo, I remember that. Yep.
$1,400.
Yes.
And and then I had a floppy disk Brother PDC 100 sequencer, which was my very first sequencer, and
Nice.
sequenced the entire Depeche Mode 101 album on that synth, and I
Wow.
played along with it on VHS while I would have all the multi-tracks
Nice.
going along and
Nice.
stuff.
Nice.
That's how I learned how to play. That's how I learned how to play by ear, and I just listened to it and played along. And fast forward from software, I started collecting more and more hardware over the years, and then maybe about maybe 5 to 7 years ago, I heard about this meetup here in Toronto called Tom's, Toronto Modular Synth Workshop, and that was run by Brock out of Tui Gress, the modular case manufacturer,
Okay.
and wonderful guys. And I got to meet Paul and Craig Renault and a bunch of different people way back then, Dustin Good, Jacob Waters, all the old crew,
Mhm.
and Dustin suckered me into Moog Audio, and I got my first case, and it's been a slippery slope since. And now you see all that's behind me here.
Yeah, that's a sweet rig you've got going on behind you there. That's for sure. So nice, nice. So about how long have you been in with modular stuff now, working with modular?
Probably the last 5 years,
Oh, so it's
but
been 5 years. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, been about 5 years, I would say. But definitely, I use a lot of fixed architecture synths and semi-modular stuff as well.
Hmm.
And my latest passion over the last year or so is I've really gotten back very much into sampling. I picked up a Casio FZ1, which
Nice.
sounds phenomenal.
Yeah.
I've got two boot packs. I've got a bunch of sampling modules now, and so I've been doing a lot more of that kind of stuff lately.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. And if I remember correctly, you have an album. You've just released an album. Is that right?
I did, yeah, yeah. Thanks for mentioning that. Yeah, it's out on Bandcamp. Just came out, I think, yesterday actually, and it's really an homage to. Because I moved back. I'm from England originally,
Hmm.
and we moved to Canada when I was 8 or 9 years old. And then I would go back to England every second summer. I would stay the entire summer at my uncle's house.
Nice.
And then I went to England for university. So I spent about maybe 8 or 10 years of my life in England. Sorry, not 10 years, about 15 or 16 years of my life in England, actually. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I was there during Aphex Twin's early, like when Selective Ambient Works came
Nice.
out, when Orbital Insights came out, when FSOL ISDN album came out, and I was in the record shop every single week,
Sure.
uh, picking up new things. Just that's all where all my savings would go is on in record shops.
Right.
Um,
So yeah, you were there at a pretty hot time.
yeah, and
That must
so
have had some
at that time, I
significance.
discovered drum and bass, big beat,
Mhm.
and sort of amen break, jungle, and all that kind of stuff. And so this new EP, it's called Underground Stories. It's very much a tribute to Future Sound of London, to the
Nice.
Crystal Method, to LTJ Bookham and Easy Rollers, and all that kind of stuff. A lot of samples, the typical movie samples that were used in that sort of era,
Mhm.
lo-fi, amen break type stuff, mostly done on Digitact, on the TB303, SH101, the Pro 2, all those sorts of sounds. So yeah, it's on
That's
it's
awesome.
on
That's awesome. And what's your Bandcamp handle?
Android Dreams Music on Bandcamp.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Well, just I want everybody to be able to find it, right? So that's excellent. Well, congratulations. That's quite an accomplishment, especially at this time, right? It's hard for a lot of people to get motivated to pull stuff together. So I think it's doubly impressive that you've got that happening, during the COVID.
I feel like I feel like there's so much music coming out in these last 10 months. I think
Hmm.
people are hyper focused because there's nothing else to do. There's nowhere to go. There, you can't meet up with friends and family and things. And all you can do is get your emotion out uh, musically. And
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
for a lot of people I've spoken to, this has been a very, very creative period for so many people. There's been so much music, really, so much music streamed over the
Hmm.
last months, and so for a lot of introverts, this has been not a bad time,
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah, I've heard
different.
that from some artists actually, especially with the Serb, they talk about, making a more steady income, which allows them to focus more on their art. So I think that's fantastic. So listen, apropos of that, you obviously, having done the recording, that part of it's clear that that's something that you do as part of your creative process. But how do divide your time up? I mean, given that we all have jobs and it's hard to, you've got a super sweet rig behind you, a lot of equipment, a lot of stuff to learn and experiment with. Do you have a specific approach? Like, do you contribute a certain amount of your time towards learning, practicing, a certain amount to recording? Do you have a structure to your approach?
Um, it varies. I mean, I probably uh, watch an unhealthy amount of YouTube music
Yes.
gear, and I think I'm sort of maybe guilty, like a lot of us, of spending more time on gear slots and modular grid planning and fantasizing about buying gear, and if only I had this piece of gear, then
Right. Yeah.
everything would be right.
Yeah.
And always wanting to change things and move things, and it's a very slippery slope to
Yeah.
fall down.
Yeah.
And it's hard when you've got a full-time job. I've got 2 children. You got family responsibilities, home responsibilities. You can't just be involved in music at all times, but it's certainly a vital, vital part of stress relief and stress reduction, and just getting tension out of the body and
Sure.
getting your creativity down. Very often, one of the things that I think sparks me the most is very often when I'm listening to other people's music, it's almost like I'm remixing it in my head,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking, okay, I would change that bass line and I would put a melody line here,
Right.
and sometimes I'll hum a melody into my phone so then I can go back to it later.
Hmm.
But almost always I'll start um, with a sound that's inspired me, and then it just leads me into different directions. I'm not classically trained in any way. I can't read music or anything, so sort of just everything is by ear and by feel, really.
And do you tend to bring sort of a consistent approach when you sit down to work on something, or do you just basically let this, as you mentioned, let the sound speak to you and kind of see where it goes from there?
Um, I think it's almost, I think the nice thing about having a lot of a variety of equipment is I almost view them as separate systems in a way. So if I wanted to make some acid and things, I'll have the TB3 and the TR8 going, and maybe the SH01. And whereas if I want to do something very experimental and ambient, maybe I'll go for the modular. Uh, I find the Electron Digitact has been an absolute game changer for me. It's probably the most musical piece of gear I've ever used. In fact, I bought two because I wanted to have 16 tracks rather than just the eight. And its sequencer is fantastic. Its sound is fantastic. The ease of use is just, it's incredible. But I feel like it's almost too easy. I could
Yeah,
literally do
yeah,
everything in my studio, and if I just had the Digitax,
yeah.
still be able to churn out so much music.
Your desert island units.
Very much so, very much so. But
And do the two Digitacs like together, do they have like an overflow mode that allows you to sort of,
they
double
are,
the,
see them right
yep, there it
there,
is. Yep.
there. So they're just midied up together. I don't use overhub at all.
Okay. Yeah.
So I typically try to use one for drums and leads,
Hmm.
and then the second one for sort of spoken word samples and sort of effects.
Yeah.
So then one is sort of playing patterns, and then one I'm live triggering
Gotcha.
or something like that.
Gotcha.
I pretty much try to use my mixer to create my song. So I'll
Okay.
have
Yeah.
a whole bunch of different instruments all playing at the same time, all with their sequence patterns that I've programmed, and
Right.
then I create the song in the mixer. So I'm using the faders live in real time to
Yep.
bring out solos and mutes and bringing effects in and out and things like that. Uh, Advantages and disadvantages of that. It's an ongoing discussion with myself and Paul Stillwell about multi-tracking,
Yeah.
which is starting to win me over as to the reason why I should be multi-tracking things.
Right.
Because if you make a mistake when you've just got a stereo
That's right.
stereo, that's too
The
bad.
whole thing is, yeah, the whole thing's impacted. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's the way I've been working for so many years, and I just find it's the most fluid way for me to craft a song.
Sure. And it's a bit of I've noticed that it's a bit of a live performance. Artists who like to perform live, I think, tend to treat the mixer as a performance instrument in and of itself, right? And you have enough if you have enough channels on your mixer, in theory, you can have an entire set, kind of running in the background and just bring up the faders and, mute and unmute tracks as you need to. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the performance mixer. I think it really has a fantastic place. But I do also agree with what you had said, right? Multi-tracking or basically mixing in the DAW, certainly does give you the ability to reuse anything, down the road, especially if you make, as you said, a flub or just something that you take a direction you don't quite like with a particular track. So that's cool. So listen, what are you currently listening to? What music is currently on your playlist?
Lately, what have I been listening to? I've been listening to a lot of IMX. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them at all.
I've
Uh,
heard, yeah.
Chris Corner, he was the front man for the Sneaker Pimps,
Okay,
and then
yeah.
he went to his own project called IMX. I've been listening to a lot of sort of 90s drum and bass type
Hmm.
stuff.
Hmm.
Uh, and what else have I been listening to? Always listening to Apex Twin. All the older stuff, more so than the new glitchy
Yep.
stuff, is more melodic stuff. And always, always listening to my old favorite Depeche Mode for sure.
Right. So
But
stick
is
with the
this,
roots. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so much good music coming out from so many small producers, people that you discover on Instagram. There's a great sort of industrial EBM guy I love listening to. T3LSS, his name is on Instagram, and he uses mostly sort of noise engineering modules and Erica synth modules, and just fantastic. But so many people that are just putting out some fantastic music that are just flying under the radar, and Bandcamp has been wonderful for discovering So many
Yeah, it's got
beautiful.
so much fantastic content. You can just kind of let it auto pick the tracks for you all day. I oftentimes put it on the background while I'm at work, and I'm oh my gosh, what's that? And I just hit heart on it, right? Hit like on it, and away you go. So yeah, Bandcamp's a real blessing. So tell me then, apropos of obviously of our of our community here, what do you look for from Frequency Freaks? Like what attracts you to the Frequency Freaks community?
The greatest part about it is that word, community. It's an absolute sense of family and friendship, and it's so wonderful to be in a room with people who just get you and
Yes.
understand your passion and your
Yeah.
motivation and just how important this little world is to us.
Yes. Yes.
And to be able to talk in a whether it's with someone who's an absolute beginner and enthusiastic and doesn't as asking so many questions, and you remember when you were just like that as well, and helping bring them in and help explain things to them and teach them, or someone who's been in it for their entire lives and getting into really high concept technical details.
Hmm.
um, it's all there, and to be able to perform and then talk about your performance, or to listen to incredible varieties of performances from people, and then
Hmm.
actually have them explain to you and be able right there and then with the creator to say, oh my God, that bass line, one third of the way in, what did you use? And literally you can walk right up to his rig and he'll
Yeah,
show you
that's right.
exactly what he did to get that sound. So that teaching aspect, that learning aspect, the the enthusiasm, it's a wonderful thing that has been built, and it's a real shame that we're all not able to get together and speak with one another and play for one another, and just that sense of community. It's one thing to do it on Zoom, and it's wonderful that we can still at least see each other and speak to one another. But that real human contact is it's wonderful. Yeah.
It's a big difference, that's for sure. That's for sure. So, and I guess, do you think that you sort of, obviously we're talking about the community. Do you think that there's a community sound or a Toronto scene that's kind of
There's
emerged from this?
definitely a scene. I think there's a scene that's grown. I mean,
Mhm.
modular synthesis and just synths in general. I mean, we're living in an absolute golden era of
Golden age.
availability, from the highest of high end to the cheapest of cheap. And not to get into a Behringer discussion in any way, but whatever your budget is, whether it's free VSTs or even relatively inexpensive hardware synths, whatever type of music you want to make, it's all available. The amount of free education that's available online is incredible. And but is there a Toronto sound? I would definitely say, um, I because I've seen now so many performers play so many times,
Mhm.
I'll know what Steve Castellano may sound like. I'll know what you know Paul Stillwell may sound like. I know what Jeremy Sykes may sound like, and what you may sound like, because I've seen you before. So it's something. It's the variety is incredible, from dark ambient and very experimental to four on the floor techno to everything in between.
Mhm.
Uh, and the nice thing is everyone's very open-minded.
Mhm.
When you go to a performance, when you go to a gathering, you have no idea what you're going to hear, but it's going to be good. And even if it's someone, the nice thing is also to see someone who performs for their very first time. That's happened quite a few times over the years. People who they've come in, they started asking questions, they bought their first synth, and we've sort of slowly encouraged them, and to see them be able to perform and have the confidence to perform for the first time, it's a wonderful thing,
It really
you
is.
know.
Yeah, very
Uh,
much so.
but yeah, I mean, Toronto's got a really great musical scene,
Mhm.
and yeah, just want to get back to live music.
For sure, for sure. So listen, obviously, I really appreciate you taking the time today. I'm wondering if maybe we could just ask you to do one more thing. It might be a bit experimental, see we can see if it works. But you've obviously got such a sweet rig behind you, so I just thought maybe on your way out, you might just pan around and just sort of point out some of your favorite instruments and a little bit about your rig. Nothing too serious, just a quick overview.
Sure. Let's just see if we can do this with the camera here. Maybe it works best if I just turn it around 1 second here.
Sure.
Okay. There we go. Okay. So this is I guess the heart of it all. This is the Mackie 1640i Onyx mixer,
Excellent.
and few little pedals. I've got the Otto Biscuit, which is a killer bit crusher.
Nice.
Eventide space and time factor there. A wonderful little MIDI breakout box from Roland from back in the day.
Yeah.
Here the dual Digitax and the TR8S. Below that is the TB3. And then this is the newest acquisition actually to the studio. Is sort of a little hard to see it, but it's the Novation AFX station.
Nice.
Up here we have a DX21, and then the absolute pride is the Oberheim SEM Pro.
Nice.
With Mr. Tom Oberheim's signature right
Excellent.
there, if you can see it.
Excellent.
And
Yeah, that's awesome.
it's pretty nuts to actually play on a synth that Tom Oberheim himself touched and built, and
Yes.
this is the Pro 2 from Dave Smith, which is an absolute bass monster. I love it. The sequencer on it is fantastic. This is my System 8, which you may have seen at the Roland Inspiration Center. I'm not sure how many. This is sort of a customized case they built for display. And I got this from the lovely Doug Romanoff. And basically, it holds 2 racks of modular gear. So I've got my Roland modules through here. And so I'm not sure how many of these there are in the world, but it's a wonderful piece.
Good score, man. That's a nice score.
Yeah. And then moving over to the modular side of things, this is usually this is my performance case. This actually, the drum mixer from America Synths, this just arrived last month, so I'm just learning how to use that. This is a fantastic little sampler from Ginkgo Synthes. And just all the modules I've got going on here. I'm really got too many sequencers. I've got the sequencer 1. I've got the drum sequencer. I've got the dope for 1, and then I've even got, which just came out of the case, and I've got no space for it. I've got the Eloquencer as well.
Nice, excellent. The Eloquencer, sweet.
So more than a few.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Well, listen, thanks very much. I really appreciate the tour. That's fantastic. And I guess just as we go, I gather you've got a performance for us today. So thanks very much for that. Really looking forward to hearing that.
You're welcome. Yeah, it's a bit of an acid track I just threw up yesterday. Put it together. It's pretty much mostly done on the TR8S, the TB3, a little bit of System 8, Pro 2. And Eurorack. So actually quite a few things actually went into that one.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, great. Well, listen, thanks so much for your time today. It's been great seeing you, and I really appreciate, hearing about your background and everything. Obviously, the studio tour is awesome. And obviously really looking forward to seeing you again face to face very soon.
Likewise.
Okay, take care. Have a great day.
Take care, Scott. Nice seeing you.